Okay, hi. Today I'm gonna talk about college decisions and getting into college and everything. I know like applying and everything has already passed, but this is just for like next year's people and everything. Um, I'm about to be a junior in college. Well, I'm taking a Maymester right now after my sophomore year, and then next fall I'll be a junior in college. I go to Texas Christian University. It's honestly the best school on earth. I'm probably very biased though, but I love it. I think it's great. Um, I Everyone I know also thinks it's great, and people that don't go to school agree, but they like their school better. I TCU is great. So I'm just gonna start about just applications. Just make sure you can do and get as much as you can on your application and double check those. Write the best essay you can. Granted, my essay wasn't that great, but it got me into a lot of schools. I applied to uh, I applied to 8 schools. I applied to TCU, UT, McMurray, ACU, SMU, PLU, Wazoo, and Gonzaga. Sorry, my puppy's back here. So I applied to 8 schools and I got into all of them. I got waitlisted at SMU, but that's a whole different thing. Um, okay, so yeah, anyways, so I started out, like how I started out. This is just gonna be a really jambly, rambly video. I haven't filmed in a while, so if you can't tell, my last video was 3 months ago. And it was a what's in my backpack video. It wasn't even like a decent video. Not saying any of my videos are decent, but yeah, so I started the process out by I applied to my Plan Z school first. My Plan Z school was McMurray University. It's here in Abilene, where I went to high school and middle school, and it's where my sister went for a few years. My sister doesn't actually have a college degree. That's a different thing. We won't get into her life. But yeah, so I applied there because I knew freshman year I wanted to live in a dorm. Like, that was a criteria for me. I wanted to live in a dorm freshman year. Like, I wanted to get the experience. And I knew even though McMurray was in town, like it's a 7-minute drive from my house, that I would be living in the dorm because for Taylor County residents, which is where McMurray is located, room and board is free, so that they do, like for the first year, so that students do get that that experience of living in the dorms. And then I applied to my Plan G school, like middle ground, which was ACU. My boyfriend of the time went there. He's no longer my boyfriend. We broke up. That's a whole nother story that I'm thinking about filming. I applied there because one, I knew I would get in. I got into McMurray no problem. Like, I got an acceptance like 2 days after I sent in it. Yeah, it was really quick because they just like, oh, there's a dead bug there that my dog's like looking at. I was wondering what he was looking at. Anyways, but I knew I'd get into ACU and I knew I would get scholarships. I got scholarships from McMurray, but I knew I would get into ACU and get scholarships, and it was a school that I was okay with. It was one of my backup schools that I was okay with going. McMurray, I just applied for shits and giggles, for lack of a better word. But ACU was Abilene Christian University. They are very Christian, and I'm not. And so a lot of their principles didn't line up with what I was looking for, but I knew it would still be a great education. I always knew I would still have a lot of fun there and have a good time, and I would and it would be okay. But it wasn't my yes, let's go here school. And then next I applied to SMU and TCU together at the same time. I applied to SMU because I had gone to swim camp there for 3 years. I loved it. I loved the campus, everything. I took a tour like once, I think, and I was like, and everything the guy said, I was just like, what is going on? I was like, no, this is not SMU. But I mean, he would like, that should have been my first warning that like I did not belong there. But still I was like really excited about it, like super loved it. Oh my gosh, like let's go to SMU. Like SMU was my number one school since I was like a sophomore in high school. And then I applied to TCU, and I only applied to TCU because my mom had made me tour it like 2 times. She made me tour it one time on my 17th birthday. Actually, she made us do a drive-through tour of it one time, and I was like, the school is so small because like there's like a few roads that go through campus, but like not like major roads. There's only one major road that goes through campus, which is great. I like that because I don't have to worry about dying all the time or like a far commute, which is good. Oh, there's my dog again, going back to the bug. So I was like, this is a tiny school. I was like, I do not want to go here. I was like, ACU at this point is larger than TCU. At least I thought it was. But TCU is larger than ACU. Anyways, so I was like, no. And then we went on a walking tour on my 17th birthday, and I was so mad because I thought we were going shopping. And she was like, surprise, we're going to tour TCU, and I was really pissed off the whole time. I was a very negative Nancy about it, or negative Nelly, whatever the saying is. But I applied anyways because the more I throughout the tour, it started to grow on me. And then I applied to UT as a backup school. UT was a backup school. I knew I would get in because I was in the top 10%. Like any school in Texas I would have gotten into because I was in the top 10% and I had automatic acceptance into any public school in Texas, so I could have applied for a lot more public schools and gotten in, but I didn't want to go to a public school. So I applied to UT because I really did like UT. I thought UT was a good school. There was also a cute boy that went there at the time that I kind of liked. So I was like, hey, maybe I could hang out with him. He was a friend. He's still a friend, kind of. A bunch of my friends go there. And then like halfway through my tour of UT, after I had applied and gotten in, halfway through my tour, I like left because I was like, no, like it was too big. I couldn't handle it. It just wasn't for me. And then I applied to PLU. I had toured PLU, Pacific Lutheran University, when I was a sophomore in high school. It's in Washington. And I really liked it. It was my top school for a while, but I just didn't want to go to Washington. And then I applied to Wazoo because my dad's a big fan of Wazoo. I also toured that my sophomore year of high school. And I wasn't a huge fan of it. I just didn't like the big hills, but I still applied just to see because it was like only 45 minutes away from where I was born, so I was like, maybe. And then I applied to Gonzaga, which was where I was born, in Spokane, and I really liked Gonzaga. I didn't tour it, but just like its websites, which is really like awful of me to say, like I chose to apply to a school because of its websites. I really liked its websites. But in the end, when I got accepted to TCU, it was probably the best day of my life. I was so happy. I decided to go, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Anyways, on to applications. Make sure you have an application that stands out. If it can't be like with what you're involved in and how you're involved in things, make your essay stand out. Or just like TCU had this thing where you could do a blank piece of like printer paper and you could do whatever you wanted on it for part of their application. It was optional and you could turn that in, and I did that. I drew some unicorns on there and wrote a poem about unicorns, and I sent that in, and my essay that I sent to every school that got me in, which I think is what made me stand out a little bit more, is it was about how I wanted to be better than my sister and everything. Like, I don't even know what the topic was, but like somehow like that thesis fit the topic of all the schools that I applied to. I had to alter it a bit for each school to make it fit more of the topic, but for TCU it fit the topic perfectly, and I sent that in. And then I had been involved in a study community service job. It was called Zoo Teens. They still have the program. I don't do it anymore because I'm still technically a teenager, but no longer in their criteria of a teenager. So I did that from when I was 13 until the summer before I went to college. So I was very Grover. I was very heavily involved in that. It was an all summer thing, and I did it, and I was, by the end, like the last 3 years I did it, I was a lead zoo teen, so I was in charge of other zoo teens, and yeah, and what you looking at, bub? Lay down. And then I also was a co-captain of my swim team. I had been involved in swimming since I was 10, and I was on the high school varsity swimming for 4 years. So just like, you don't necessarily need to be involved in a lot. Yes, that helps, but if you are only involved in a few things, make sure you're the best of those few things, or make sure you're very passionate about those few things, and make sure you're heavily involved in those few things. Like for swimming, I was co-captain. I made us win a spirit award for 3 years after my first swim meet that I went to. For that specific swim meet, I didn't realize it was a spirit meet, and afterwards I really wanted to win the spirit stick. I really wanted our team to be the most spirited, so I made t-shirts, I made us cheer, I won us the spirit stick 3 years in a row. The first year that we won it, we got second place. The second year, we tied for first place with the team that had been winning first place for the past 20 years. And the third year, we got second place again because people weren't as enthusiastic. Granted, I wasn't as enthusiastic because I was stressing about college and everything, so that was a little bit on my bad. The first 2 years, the t-shirts were handmade, and the third year, I went out and bought t-shirts. I had them specially printed, but so they were they weren't something you could go buy at any store. You had to I had to order them specially. And I was involved in creative writing for 2 years, and I was an editor my second year. And I had a job throughout high school, and I took pretty much every AP class that I could / wanted to. My sophomore year, most people only take your sophomore year, my school, most people only take 1 AP class. I took 2. My junior year, most people only take, I think it's 3, and I think I took 4 or 5. And then your senior year, most people only take 5, and I think I took 6. Yeah, so I made sure that I was academically involved too, and I didn't get to send in all my scores for my AP tests to the school for applying because, senior year, all my tests were after, due dates, and I think they were even after decision day. But, yeah, so I got into all the schools except for SMU. I got waitlisted, but at the time I got my waitlist, I had already put my deposit down on TCU because, one, I was I'm still waiting to hear back from SMU, but I really didn't care at that point. I had taken another tour of TCU. And yeah, so honestly, I would say in the process, make sure you're heavily involved. Either make sure you're involved or make sure you're heavily involved in a few things, and then make sure you're I know this is all broad stuff that your college counselor could tell you. We didn't have college counselors, or at least if we did, I never saw her. Make sure your application stands out. My application stood out in the fact that I sent a unicorn poem into the school that I go to currently, and that I sent every single school an essay about how I wanted to be better than my older sister in every single way. Yeah, so just make sure your application, I guess, in the general sense, is really just a representation of you as a person and who they would be adding to their family, because your school is, at least at TCU, your school is your family. And then I would say for backup schools, don't just pick up a backup school because you'll get into it. I mean, granted, I did pick 2, 3 backup schools because I knew I would get into them, but they were one of the schools I was never gonna go to, but I knew I would get into other schools, because don't just pick one backup school. I would say pick 2 or 3 backup schools that you know you can get into, but make sure they're backup schools that you would be okay with going if you don't get into any other schools. Because lately on my like YouTube like home feed, a bunch of like I got rejected from every school I applied to. Like videos have been popping up, and I just watched like 5 of them. That's why I'm filming this video. And they were like, or I got into my my backup school and I don't want to go there, or they're like, I got waitlisted at one of these schools and like blah blah blah. Like, if you get waitlisted, go for the waitlist. If you get waitlisted at your favorite school, like stay on the waitlist, but still put a deposit down at your next best school. Because I said that I would wait for the waitlist at SMU, but I still put a deposit down on TCU, and then by like the end of May, I was like, they were like, you're like the 3rd next on our wait list, blah blah blah, and they were like, do you still have interest? And I was like, no, like take me off that list, like let somebody else like go there. I want to go to TCU. Like I had taken like another 2 tours. Like I was very invested in TCU. So yeah, that is my thing. Like if you get waitlisted, go ahead, and if it's like the school you really want to go ahead and be like, yes, keep me on your wait list, but still put a deposit down on another school. And for your backups, like I said, have been saying, just make sure your backups are really schools that you would be okay with going to if you don't get into any other school, because sometimes that happens. And I hadn't gotten my TCU acceptance. I didn't get my TCU acceptance letter until like February. Like I was freaking out. I was like, shit, should I have written an essay about how I wanted to be better than my sister in every single way? Should I have sent them a unicorn poem? And I knew I did not want to go to UT. I didn't want to go to Washington. I wanted to stay in Texas for college. And I didn't want to go to McMurray, so I didn't want to go to UT, so I was like, okay, I'm going to ACU. Like, I had accepted it. And then that weekend, when I got back from my UT tour, I got my acceptance letter to ACU, and I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I would have been okay going to ACU. Like, I had accepted it, and I was fine with it. But I did not want to stay in Abilene, but I would have made it work. I would have been okay with going there because my boyfriend at the time had gone there. But yeah, that was just like, also, don't choose a school based off of a boy. I applied there, yes, because my boyfriend went there, but also I knew it was a good school. And we're broken up now. So like, why would I have gone there if I had gone there solely for him? I wouldn't be happy anymore. So yeah, that's the end of my 20-minute long video. If you are sad or anything, here's my puppy. Yeah, here, we'll get you through your process of going to school. Say hi, Grover. Hi, Grover. Hi. Okay, yeah, thanks. Bye.